No, I believe it's the other guy that's in there now.
Well, that's my president. I don't know about your
Oh,
president.
okay. And keep going on. And in a break with recent history, all of the city council members running for re-election cruise to victories. Since the 2020 election, at least one council member every 2 years had lost their seat to a well-funded, well-organized challenger. Didn't happen this time. Um, so Oh, there was one exception to the status quo, and that was our city attorney. This person lost. Um,
Why?
the city, the one exception was city attorney Heidi Faustine Soto, who became the first city attorney to miss the runoff since 1933, 90 years, more than 90 years ago. Um, why? I remember reading immediately after it, she didn't campaign and did not attempt to establish any connection with the voters. And, when I went to vote, Nathaniel, I am for various reasons, but I can see other people having same or similar reasons. A lot of the judicial officers, again, I knew nothing about. I knew nothing about them whatsoever, had never heard of them. It was like, I'm not voting on this one. I can't vote on this. I am not going to put a crazy person in an office just because I don't know the candidates well. And I don't know, Vanita, maybe it was my own shortcoming for various reasons, not knowing more about some of the judicial candidates, but I was really struck by, excuse me, y'all, I really am feeling stupid here. I just don't know this person, these people. So, again, we got to do something to um, help educate our public. I was at a concert last night. They give a Friday night jazz concert at the Los Angeles Art Museum. Every Friday night, it's good jazz there. You can go, it's free, professional jazz. And I ran into a young man I know named Steve Bradford. Steve was the uh, politician who wrote the bill for the the NIL money for athletes in school. And I said, Steve, why didn't you write something to help these kids control their money? They get in all this money and they spending it wildly, because I know of a particular kid who gets $50,000 a month, and he bought his girlfriend from his prior school a new car for $50,000 one month. So they just spending this money crazily. He said, oh, we do have that implemented now. We did amend that bill. I'm getting the feedback.
Yes, my wife. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So, anyway, getting back on point here, the local politicians and that's the wrap up. I'll stop there for right now.
Well, wait a second. Let's fix this problem right away, because you said something that disturbs me, sir. You said that you went to vote, you're a historical figure, and you didn't know what the hell you were voting for. And
Some of them.
so let me tell you what we have to do to fix this. Folks, before you go to vote, there's something very important that you have to do. You can go on any website in any community almost in America, and it give you a list of candidates, right? So when you look at the list of candidate, you cut and paste their name and do a Google search on the candidate.
Okay.
Look at their position. So what we have to do now is that I want you to go to the second part of this, because he's 100% right. When before I go to vote, because I don't know who the candidates are, because it takes a lot of money to get your story out there now, coupled with the fact that we have information on the internet is so prevalent until you don't know what's true or false. So what you have to do is you have to take, in my situation, I spent about 30 to 35 minutes looking at all the different candidates. And this is important. Once I looked at the candidate, I looked at their views on certain issues. And then I wrote it down. And so when I went to vote, I knew exactly the person I want to vote for. In our local election in Moulton, for example, we had two candidates running for sheriff. Both were African American. But I wanted to look at their background, their training, their experience, and so that they could earn my vote. And I voted for one that I thought was a better fit. And so, but you have to educate yourself, even though it took me about 30 minutes to go through all the candidates. I know out there you have that primary that you like me to call a jungle primary.
Oh, that's great. But Nate and Vanita, let me just say this in defense. We had about 30 judicial offices open. I'm serious. I'm not exaggerating. Okay.
Even more important for you to
So-
research them. Go ahead.
Some were incumbents. Some were mostly district attorneys running against. Some were just aliens almost. And that requires what you said, sir, technology knowledge. You know, you got an old folks like me who I got all thumbs when I get on the computer. You understand what I'm saying? Looking for data. So I have to take my time and go one key at a time. And I see people like you get on the computer and I admire that. And so you have technology that makes things available, but your ability to utilize that technology in an efficient way, it varies throughout our populace, Nathaniel, significantly. You understand? I'm just defending some of us who has not caught up to your speed in the use of this technology. And I won't even include Vanita. You follow me? Because I'm sure she's off the chart with you even. Okay. So it just was it was a frustration. It was a frustration because I can see myself taking a lot of time to research, over days, each candidate that's there for election. It is an important thing to do, I know, but you're busy, you got personal things. It made it very cumbersome and laborious. I'm sorry to say.
It is important.
I'm
It
being
is so
honest.
very important, Milton, and I know that you understand this, to research the candidates on the ballot. You can
Yes.
pull a sample ballot, and you also mentioned the 30 judicial candidates. It's critical that you research the judges as well. And if possible, to even, I'm not speaking to the counselors on this call, but for citizens to even consider going to the courtrooms if you have time and just, observing these judges' demeanors.
Right.
Many of
Absolutely.
us and most of us will never have a case before the Supreme Court, but in our daily lives may have opportunity to appear before local judges. And so it's so important, critical at this time that we elect candidates that will do what we desire them to do, period.
Eh,
Full stop.
Vanita, one of my practices and what I teach young lawyers and have taught when I'm teaching is no matter where I'm at, whether I've tried cases in about 15 different states over my career, I inevitably will find an opportunity to just go to a courtroom and watch this judge I'm gonna be before. Just not in a case, just sit there on the third row or somewhere just to see what the temperature is in the room, what the staff is like, what the judge's temperament is when he doesn't think he's being watched. It's just something that you do if you go
Absolutely.
prepare for your case.
Well,
yes.
that's something, Milt, that most citizens will never be able to do. Because what you're saying is extraordinary effort to go. I understand what you're saying because I've done the same thing. What I used to do is that I used to go sit in on courtroom to watch judges because I would do reports to the Civil Rights Organization as relate to candidates trying to be federal judges and things like that. So I would go in and I would do a report for the civil rights group like the NAACP on the report of the judge that would have to go before the Senate, and then they would write a letter to the the chairman of the committee, as whether or not the civil rights group did not support the particular candidate. And I did that for a long time. And but I had to educate myself. But that was on a single judge, Milton. I mean, there's no way in hell I could do 30 judges.
Well, not 30, but I just make that as a general recommendation
Yeah.
among many to citizens in terms of executing their fundamental right to vote. The right to vote and voting is the most fundamental right, and from my perspective, an obligation of citizenry in the United States.
To look it up.
Um, Exercising your right to vote, and it's a participatory sport, if you will, right? And then
Yeah.
the second, I think we'll talk about this topic later today in connection with the Camilo Anthony conviction this week. Serving on a jury is right up there with exercising your right to vote. So we have to do those things. And one of the things is, if you have the opportunity and can go observe judges in their courtrooms, that's one of a plethora of recommendations. The other recommendations, and the callers are Renee and Pierre are stating, and it's so very true. And I'm sure, Nathaniel, you've participated in Bar Association evaluations of judges.
Yeah.
Our callers are saying to listen to an organization or someone that you trust. And so there are many bar associations, including the Cook County Bar Association here in Illinois, and I'm sure the Marion County Bar Association, that actually interview and provide evaluations on judicial candidates.
I'm smiling for two reasons. One is I knew I was going to take a whipping from Vanita once I told on myself. I'm thankful that it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Thank you, Vanita, for being so kind. Now, the second one is, Nathaniel, I remember, especially in Orange County, more of a bedroom community than up here in LA. In the first 30 years of my practice, it was oftentimes I'd go into court and I go, how's it going today, man? There would be an older person there. We call them court watchers, professional court watchers. And that's all they had to do. They were retired people, and it was like a live theater for them to be in. I determined to be at court. Where's the case? Where's the best? Where's the most excitement today? They search around and find a case, and they follow that case. And then when you go in there, you get to know them over the years. And hey, Sam, how's it going today? Oh, brother, Mr. Grimes, I wouldn't want to be in front of Judge so-and-so today. I think he woke up on the bad side of the bed this morning, or his wife must have been mean to him or something. I think you better get your case out of this court. Something like that, good-spirited type of communication. But we call them court watchers, and they actually would watch judges and watch cases, and they could tell you a lot about the demeanor and the temperament of the court, of the judge and his whole courtroom. You follow me? So people
Excellent
do
point,
that.
Milton.
Yeah, people
Excellent
do.
point.
Yeah, they do
Now,
that.
I wasn't.
Hey, wait a second, Milton.
Yes.
DB, I won't give her a name.
Right, I was going to say the same
She
thing. I
can't
wasn't.
slam you, Milton.
I
don't know you
wasn't
look
as
at.
hard
Hey,
on you
Milton, she
as
said to
DB.
you, hey,
Go
Milton,
ahead, Nathaniel.
with all respect to my elders, we cannot make excuses claiming computer illiteracy.
Okay.
That is a poor example to the community.
I'm
Ask
sorry.
your grandkids for help. That can be positive lesson on voting.
Yes.
Milton.
Thank you,
But my grandkids
DB.
are hours
Thank you,
away.
DB. That's exactly what I was thinking. No excuse for Milton
I knew I was going to get a whipping for this for
from
being
somebody.
No, I just said, shoot.
Hey, okay, you want to respond to our caller? They're pretty upset about that comment you made about computer illiteracy.
Okay, I'm sorry. You think it doesn't exist? Well, it still does.
Well, we have to work on it. We need
Okay, I agree.
intergenerational collaboration and partnership
I was at a concert last night, one of the Lockmar concerts. The jazz quartet was Ralph Moore, beautiful quartet. I couldn't get my Uber thing. I asked a young person to do it. They couldn't straighten it out. We could not straighten out my Uber. I would have been stranded had not a friend to say, "Hey, Grimes, I'll take you home." I go, "Man, what is wrong with this Uber?" Nobody could straighten it out, and I got to work on it this morning to see if it's straightened out. But it's scary
Well,
stuff.
that's a different issue. Sometimes the technology does not work. I will grant you
Oh, oh, say that again, Vanita, please.
that.
Okay, let me just a second. Let me explain to everybody out there as to how you get research on any candidate. When we were growing up, we didn't have access to the internet, and now AI has taken over. But the problem with AI, you have to double check the accuracy of the information in AI with secondary sources. And like, for example, there are news articles about most political candidates in your newspaper that most of the time have some objectivity. I'm not talking about Fox News and those entertainment shows. I'm talking about actual newspaper. So you could put your cell phone on speak, and you could speak into Google or the various search engines and articulate the name of the candidate and their views. And a couple of seconds later, it'll give you a complete summary of what their views are on each candidate. Now, you don't have to, DB, I won't give you a name, you don't have to actually use, you suggested the grandkids. I don't need my grandkids. I think the better approach is do the research by just Googling it on the cell phone, and you'll be able to get a good answer to your question right away. And that's one source. The other, of course, is traditional methods like newspaper articles and things of that nature. And then I don't pay attention to advertisement on TV about candidates because now we have unlimited money that are being put into all kind of local races when they become contested Trump type issues. And so I don't look at these. I change the channel when they're doing all this negative advertisement. I hate seeing it now with a passion because it's just all false advertisement. They'll take a point, drive a hole through the ground with it, I guess, and it just be way off point. And so they try to destroy people's character, and they do these negative attack ads. We even saw that here in Indiana, Milton, Vanita, in the Republican races. And what occurred is the people that didn't vote to change our districts, they put their candidates and spent millions and millions of dollars with negative ads. I mean, it was disgraceful. It was a Republican attacking other Republicans because the Trump administration, they unleashed the beast, and it tells you a lot about corruption in America now. You can take a mistake, manipulate the stock market, make millions and millions of dollars, and this is crazy stuff. And then you attack these people. These were conservative Republicans. These were not no flaming liberal Republicans that they defeated. You know, none of those Republicans I would vote for. Now, their solution, get people that are worse. Shameful.
We have a caller.
Okay, Imhotep, you got a question or comment for us today, sir? Go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning to the esteemed panel here. We sure thank you all for legal expertise. I want to throw something at you all after this because I kind of got disturbed by this. And this came from a black person, but I'm going to throw it to you as soon as I'm done. With the Carmelo Anthony case down in Texas, and basically with the Bastion challenges, that did you see that the three blacks that were in the jury pool, they canceled. The reason why they had them discharged. They were discharged because the reason was they were educators. It blows my mind. That was their reason, because they were educators. I sat there and read the Dallas Morning News, and when the trial was starting, and why they discharged the only three black people that were there, the Dallas Morning News. But I wanted to ask you all. I'm hearing all this about that he may have great appeal, and I wanted to apply it to the recent ruling we just got from the Supreme Court on the Terrence Pitchford case. Are you familiar with that?
Well, Imhotep, I did extensive investigation. on this issue of the Batson chapter. Batson was decided in 1986, right? And so, but the key case that applies to this situation is not necessarily Batson, but the Leesville, the Evans case in 1991. The reason that's important, it dealt with the entire veneer panel, right? In this case,
Right.
the first issue is that why were there only 3 blacks in the veneer panel to start with? You see what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So in other
Right.
words, if the black population in Indianapolis, say, is 28, 29%. So if mathematically, if you have 50 potential jurors show up, then out of that 50, you should have a representation of about 15 African Americans, right? And that's the math that goes with it. So now the Evans and Lumberman case, Leesville, was a civil case. Now, the reason that's important, in Indiana, I litigated the case that adopted Batson in Indiana in civil cases. And so it's Ashburn versus Bowles and Rumpke, and that became jury rule, I think, 18 in Indiana, where you can't exclude blacks in civil cases, but Batson only applied to criminal cases. But the Leesville
Yeah, but I want to ask you.
case.
Yeah, but that Terrence Pitchford ruling, the Pitchford ruling, I read specifically, it was a 5-4 decision. Kavanaugh and Roberts sided with the liberal justices, and they ruled that the black people, prospective jurors in Pitchford's case should not have been excluded. And so I was wondering, when does that take effect? Is that an immediate thing when they rule like that? How does that go? Because Clarence Thomas, of course, he dissented. Of course, he never thinks there's any race any problem. But Roberts and Kavanaugh saw that there was an inherent problem there with racial discrimination, basically, with the jury pool in that Terrence Pitchford case down in Mississippi. That's a critical case. And so when we look around and look at other jury pools, shouldn't this start applying now? We should not see this, because when you go and look at that Dallas area, they had a pretty good turnout in the midterms. I think it's 40-something% African American or Latino down through there, 40-something, pretty good population. Texas has the most black population in the whole country, matter of fact. So they got a pretty good population of black people down there. It shouldn't have just been 3, but I want to throw this to you all. I was discussing you all with a I consider an African American gentleman.
I think what you
real quick, and then I'll let you go. I was discussing you all with an African American person in the city, and I was talking about you all's expertise, and I told them that they released me all, and they actually kind of threw a little a rock at you. I didn't like them. Well, he's just a civil attorney. He doesn't know anything about criminal law, and they were giving all this credit to David Hennessy and all of them around here. And I was like, lawyers studying, they know about law, stuff like that. I kind of got disturbed. Black people, we got a problem, man. And so maybe Milton Grimes, you and Nate, and you, Attorney Banks, too, you all can comment on that, how black people want to denigrate other black attorneys if they're not a criminal. Like, you all don't know the law. I was really disturbed by that. And this person they are educated. They went to school, but, we got a long way to go. So I'll listen to you comment about that, especially about that.
The reason I know so much about this is that I litigated this case to the Indiana Supreme Court. My case is a law in the state of Indiana on exclusion of blacks in civil trials. See, jury selection is sacred. And so whether you're in a criminal or civil case, you didn't have a right in the civil case to have blacks in the panel until 1991 at the Leesville Lumberman case. And my case, of course, established the fact. And then once the Supreme Court agreed with my position, they then added that position to the jury trial rules for the state of Indiana. So whether you're criminal or civil law, that's my case that made it equally applicable in both civil and criminal cases. So, but the issue here is the veneer panel. So I want to make that clear, because I know, Pierre, you want to make a comment, but the rights to have blacks on jury, they could give an excuse, and that could be race neutral. I guess what Vanita said, their excuse was the fact that they were educated, which is a dumb excuse in my mind, but maybe Milton could give me some more insight on this issue.
Well, I can understand people getting upset, but you got to look at the fact of who is this judge. One judge will decide it one way, and another judge may decide it another way, depending upon their own personal belief and history and desire and goals. So I don't, get torn up too much by a judge who is a racist sitting up there with the robe on and making decisions that are going against a particular person because of that person's race. It's just something, sadly enough, you got to come back on appeal and show that this person was wrong. Sometimes that's the situation. So that doesn't mean that all of a sudden that is the absolute law in a particular area. What this judge here has decided. I've had judges to give me a mistrial because the veneer only consisted of one black out of 100 jurors, even though we're in a county with a 1.2% black population. Because my argument was this is a death penalty case, and this young man is entitled to a jury of his peers and a representative jury, a random selected jury from his community. And even though it may be a 1.2% black community, we still are entitled to more blacks on the jury. And sure enough, the judge gave us a mistrial. And sure enough, coincidentally enough, when the next veneer came in, it had 3 blacks in it. And sure enough, one of them were called out and ended up being on this death penalty jury. So you got to fight the fight in that courtroom and not roll over just because somebody in a black robe says this is the way this is going to be. That's how I look at practicing law. You got to fight for it, man. And this judge here seems to have pretty hard views on things. I've never seen a case that I can recall where the sentencing occurred, especially in a murder case, before you have a hearing on sentencing where you can bring in mitigating facts, because the DA is going to bring in all the aggravating factors possible that the court can hear. And I just can't believe that this court entertained all of the mitigating factors in this young man, Anthony's case. I just can't believe that he heard all of this in the guilt phase of the case. So
In
how
that
he
short period of time.
how he was able to make a reasonable conclusion or decision for what this sentence properly should be, I just can't figure it out.
Okay, let's
And
go
if
to Pierre.
and manslaughter was on the table as well,
Well, that's
and
up
that
for the
would have
jury.
resulted in a um 2 to 20-year sentence.
Yeah,
And
that
and from what I read as well, um, this teen will have to serve at least half of this
half the time.
35-year sentence. And in my opinion, this sentence appears overly excessive. And let me throw some other things on the table. Um, the teen did not uh, take the stand in his own defense. And during the sentencing phase, Milton and Nathaniel, only his mother spoke up on his behalf. You think there would have been a bevy of
Where,
people.
where are his coaches? I'm sorry, Vanita. I apologize.
I'm just throwing that out to you all for
Yeah.
your opinion as the experts.
I mean, yeah, I'm totally appalled at the way this case was handled from the beginning of the jury selection with the 3 jurors being excused, African American jurors, because it does matter. It does matter. One black juror may not be able to balance the playing field, but they're going to affect the playing field, hopefully. So to deny this person that opportunity for their life and for the rest of their life is just unfair. It's just unfair. I've had too many cases where it made a difference. One
And
African American.
we need to confirm this. And but from what I understand, and you always have to fact check everything, listening audience, that there were 3 Hispanics, 2 Middle Easterners, 2 Asians, 1 Indonesian, and 4 white people on the jury. Frisco is one of the fastest growing, if not the fastest growing city in the nation. And it is currently majority minority with 10% Black citizens. And so, what do you think about that composition of the jury, assuming it's true?
I don't think that is if
Again, no black people on the jury. Go ahead, Milton.
I mean, I've given examples to white audiences. Well, you're being prosecuted. You, Mr. So-and-so, have been charged with the rape and the killing of a young African-American college student in her dormitory. And I look at your jury. You got 12 black people sitting on your jury. The judge is black. The prosecutor is black. I'm black. You're the only white person in here. Do you feel comfortable with this jury? Oh, no. I want a jury that's a little bit more mixed. Well, that's how black people feel when they are in a courtroom. We want a jury that's a little bit more representative of our community and of us because they understand our nature. They understand our value system. They understand nuances about us, certain activities, certain things that will trick us off, like the N word, maybe much more than it will flip you off or trip you off. So it's an important ingredient that you are leaving out when you compose a jury that doesn't have all of these mixtures in it. So four Indonesians or four Asians or four Hispanics and this and that, and well, it ain't an all white jury. Well, it ain't no blacks on it. It might as well be all white because a lot of these race groups have formed opinions and attitudes towards us that are based upon misinformation, ignorance, and lack of proper knowledge about who we are. So we are still being denied a fair jury.
Excellent.
Okay, let me get one caller. Okay, Pierre, I got a question or comment. Go ahead.
Can you hear me a little good now?
Loud and clear, sir. Go ahead. Tell us about it.
Okay, I wanted to comment on what Milton said about picking the judges. Milton, I follow staff mechanic who works out there for Carl Douglas, and she used to put out a list of people to vote for. So that's one way. And then I wanted Nate to talk about
I like to pick my own.
this crazy. Could you say that again?
Nothing. Go ahead. It wasn't worth it. Go ahead. Don't worry about it.
I wanted Nate to talk about our crazy court system set up down there in our new court house. I used to be able to know which judge to go to, but now it's very difficult. But with the Carmelo Anthony case, from what I understand, it was the way that the three black jurors, potential jurors, answered the question. Something to the effect, some said they couldn't be impartial or they couldn't convict him. I'm not sure if that's true or not, but if they said something like that, that's one reason why they were probably excluded. The other thing is this boy was still served from the beginning. Now, my thing is he was going to do some time because he killed that boy. He could have. There was
making a lot of conclusions, Pierre, based on your speculation here, and I hate to address you.
Well, what's to speculate about? What we're speculating, sir? What's to speculate about having somebody in the chest?
I don't know how to fight. I don't know how the fight started. I don't know how the fight progressed. I don't know how the knife first came out or anything, and I don't think you do either. So to jump to the conclusion.
Well, I think there's no jumping to conclusions. The jury heard what they heard, and they convicted the young man. The thing I have a problem with is, and we get back to this money thing. If there was ever a chance that he could have took a plea deal or whatever, maybe that would have been his best move. Because
it wasn't a plea deal. There you go again. I don't know what plea was offered to this young man. Do you?
Yeah, I don't know. Okay, but if there was, then again, he may have had one. But I do know that they had that money fund going, and with that money fund going, if you take a plea deal, then the money fund stops, and that could have had an influence. You can't. Okay, so didn't they have a a fund going, Nate?
I see. I don't know.
I'm trying to
Pardon me,
research.
I
Pierre.
I'm
think
researching that as we speak. I've
I-
heard
they
that.
had a fund. They had
I
a
heard
money
that there
fund
was
going.
a GoMe fund.
Yeah,
So,
But
and if
again,
you
you
take
can't believe everything that you read. So until I
if he took
read about and
if he took
research that assertion,
if he
I can't speak to it.
right, right.
yeah, but if he took a plea, that money stopped, and
Well,
that family
you
stopped
got a
getting
lot
that
of
money.
propositions that I don't think we can really intelligently respond
Well,
to. Yeah, I'm sorry. You know,
I'm just saying. I think the young man was ill served, and with respect to the judge, he's going to have a lot to work with on appeal because I've heard a lot of things about this judge having maybe a personal relationship with the family or whatever of the other
there you
young
go.
fellow. Then then they had this charlatan who was talking and speaking on behalf of the family. That hurt him. I mean, it's just crazy. But he got a good case on appeal. But as far as him, if there was a plea deal, he probably should have took it. But we don't know.
You don't know that,
But
Pierre. And you know, but this young man
I
had to
know we
sit.
don't know that.
He's got to
But
sit in prison and wait for the appeal, and he could be dead before the appeal is decided. You put him in exposure to a prison population that you don't know what will come about because of it. So it's better to get a fair trial at the beginning if you can. And if you got to fight the judge, you got to fight that judge tooth and nail, try to get a mistrial, try to get a writ in to stop the proceeding. If you feel that it's real wrong, maybe the Court of Appeal will step in at the trial level and change the judge's ruling on something. All kinds of things that you possibly can do to fight for a person's freedom.
Hey, Pierre, one thing that you personally know, because I know that you talked to me about it at Black Expo last year that we met for the first time. That is that regardless of what people say, you're correct about one thing. Not all judges are fair.
Right.
Because when they take that robe on, they bring into that their background of what they've done the totality of their life. So if they were racist as a teenager, they're probably racist as a judge. You know, that's just a fact of life.
Well, you know, Nate, I wasn't going to bring that up on your show, but since you brought it up in my court case, and I'll tell you about it weeks later down the road to let somebody else get in. But that new judge that we got on the federal bench, that I think he got by 3 votes, he's going to be a problem going forward.
Okay.
He's going to be a real problem going forward. But thank you for taking my call.
Thank you, sir.
And I see how far you can get with your affidavit against a federal judge sitting on the bench. It ain't gonna move him.
Yeah.
They don't move, Pierre.
Yeah. I think he understands that.
Okay.
But man, there was more issues that we need to cover, but look like we're running out of time. We only got 1 minute left. So, Vanita, you got any closing statement?
My statement would be make Juneteenth, this upcoming Friday federal holiday, a day of action. Also, I want to just make a personal shout out to former District 8 Indiana State Representative Monroe Gray, who is being inducted into the Shortridge Hall of Fame as we speak this morning, Nathaniel.
Oh, man, thanks for
In
telling me that.
Indianapolis, in Indianapolis, exactly.
Milton?
Yes, sir. Vote and be educated when you vote, folks. No, vote. This is a serious thing and a responsibility. And Vanita is quite right. I get my grandkids to help me be knowledgeable the next time.
Okay, folks. Next week is a holiday. It's our holiday, folks. So we're not going to be broadcasting. Juneteenth is an important day in American history. You know, this year Americans celebrate 250 years as a country, but we were slaves for what, 2/3 of it? we were subject to Jim Crow laws. So only what, about 20% or 1960, what was that, 64 Civil Rights Act? How many years is that? 64, 74, 80. So about 60 years out of 250, we've had rights. And so my holiday is especially this Juneteenth because it means so much. So we won't be broadcasting that week. So join us back in 2 weeks, folks. Until then, stay safe and start making plans to vote. Do your research now. Thank you, everyone.
Have a great